A very good morning to you. Welcome to K24 this morning. It's 8 a.m. on the nose right here in Nairobi, and it's time for us to jump into our newspaper review. My name is Jeff Mote. Thank you so much for making time to be on the show. As always, if you're just joining us for the first time, what we do is look at the front pages of our daily, see what you're waking up to, and then dig a bit deeper as to the big discussion of the day. And today it's all about the rocky referendum road as they try and iron things out to make sure it's smooth sailing. Will it really be? Now, of course, it's all eyes on the counties as whether they make or break this particular process hangs in the balance. The efforts out to put the BBI process to the voting lands at the county's doorsteps. As we wait and see how the numbers add up in the next 3 months, what are the effects of popularizing this document to the people? And by the time it does get to this intended popularity, will the citizens be more unified or polarized? It's a rocky referendum road on K24 this morning. But first, as always, the newspaper headlines. Start off with the front page of the PD, moving away from matters BBI and politics to the state of the education system as of now. And this is a recurrent theme across your dailies this morning. Shock of mass failure in Class 8 and Grade 4. Average score being tallied right there among Class 8 pupils, as you can see at this particular point in time. 49.2% in science, 34.9% in mathematics, 54.2% in CRE. As you can see, English and Swahili compositions, nothing getting to the 50% mark on that. Lowest mean registered in Kenya's sign language, followed by English and Kiswahili at 44.73 and 46.64 respectively. A report by the Kenya National Examination Council indicates learners are ill-prepared for national examinations after tests when schools reopened after COVID-19 crisis. This, of course, is a key issue of concern, even as they try to see how they can try and normalize the academic year in terms of this particular process. But you can get this story in your copy of your People Daily as well. And even as you look at that, right next to that on the front page, this story can be found on page 15 of your PD. Minimum tax sends panic among traders, of course, as the government tries as much as possible to get its revenue from every nook and cranny. The traders still asking for some reprieve in order to get their businesses back on track. And you can find that story in your copy of your People Daily on page 15. 2 nights in custody for Sonko after court date. This story on page 5. It's a developing story, of course, and you're following it very keenly right here on the show. And right up at the top, this will be part of our discussion this morning. Strategy or plain graft? MCAs list BBI demands. Page 8 has all the details of that, and of course it's also caused quite a furore as people try to just dig deeper into what really the MCAs wanted. Were they representing their people's interests or their own? This story can be found in your copy of your People Daily on page 8. Once again, don't forget, you can get this copy straight to your phone for only 10 shillings, and the number that you dial is *550 *4#. Front page of the Daily Nation, like I told you, this is a recurrent theme on your dailies this morning. Shock of mass failure. The Kenya Certificate of Primary School Education examination just weeks away reports that a majority of Standard 8 candidates scored below 50%, which is a pass mark in last year's school-based tests, are worrying. Learners in public schools performed worse than their counterparts in private institutions. And as the clock ticks to this particular examination, where do they go from here? That really is the question with the Ministry of Education. You can find this story on page 7 of your Daily Nation with all the details therein. As you can see, performance in English and Kiswahili caught the attention of the examiner at this particular point in time. The details of that are in your copy of your Daily Nation. Let's scroll to the bottom of this particular page. BBI, Uhuru changes tack to tame Ruto. They're calling it a new strategy which includes personally taking charge of the referendum campaigns, punishing rebel MPs, and dishing out goodies to key target groups and building consensus with leaders across the political divide. This story can be found on page 4 of your Daily Nation with all the details that can be found therein. Let's look at the Standard this morning. Mass failure in tests at this particular point in time. Like I said, it's the same story as we grapple with the fact that they should be sitting for their national exams next month. But are they ready, and how do we deal with that even as we move forward? This can be found in your copy of your Standard. Let's look at the Stars front page. KCPE class of 2020 unprepared, says the National Examination Council, and girls outshine boys in all aspects of the new curriculum. This story is on page 4 and 5 of your Star. Private schools do better than public schools. Urban schools outdo rural ones, but generally they are all not prepared for this particular examination. So where do they go from here? Of course, meaning the ministry has to take stock of this, go back to the drawing board and see how best they can move forward with this particular situation. As you look at that, page 7 of your Star, create opportunities. Ruto's wheelbarrow politics will sink youth into abject poverty, says Raila. And of course, he spoke even as he met ODM MCAs yesterday in Karen. Finally, from page of the Business Daily. Let's scroll to the top right there. As you can see, the intrigues as far as SportPesa is concerned still making front and center of your Business Daily. Kenyan investors lose 1 billion shillings in SportPesa share dilution. Other shareholders in the company acquired a total of 1 million additional shares through a rights issue. So the intrigues between what has been happening with the board and the boardroom wars that we've seen, of course, playing out and having an actual cost in terms of the pockets of these particular shareholders. You can find this story in your copy of your Business Daily. That is on page 4 therein. But today, we're talking about the rocky referendum road, really. Where do we go from here? We saw how the goodies were ostensibly handed out yesterday, but is this the way to move it forward? And even by the time this process does get to the referendum, if it does get there, do we have a country that's more unified or more polarized from this particular process? That's what we discuss today as we get into our newspaper review. Good morning. A warm welcome and welcome back to the show. As always, I like it when you're part of the conversation. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. I have a very able panel to go through this particular rocky referendum, road discussion in studio and without as well. In studio, joined by Charles Munyui. He's a governance expert. Morning, Charles.
Good morning, my brother. How are you doing?
Very well. Welcome to the show.
I'm all right.
Asante sana for making time.
Asante sana for even the invite.
Thank you so much. Yes. We also have a former Speaker of Nairobi County, Madam Bridget Salachi. Good morning, ma'am.
Morning, how are you?
Very well.
Good.
Thanks for making time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you also.
Asante sana. Joining the conversation via Skype, we have Justice Maina. He's a governance expert as well. Good morning, Justice.
Good morning.
Karibu sana. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Very quickly, even before we get to the rocky referendum topic, I just want us to quickly go around the table. Very short remarks on this, because right on the front page, we have a country that's concerned. We have parents that are even more concerned if they have their children sitting the examinations this particular year. How do we go from here? Because clearly, what we thought would be just, going through the motions, they sit for the exams, move on to the next level, is not working. We've seen school unrest that has been, attributed to this prolonged period outside of the academic institutions. Now we can see, even academically, all is not well. What do you think are the options left right now for Magoha from where you stand, Charles?
Well, I think this was to be expected. The issue is whether or not we are properly prepared for the same, because naturally, even when kids close school for a term, for the holidays, the normal holidays, every time they are going back to school, there is usually a bit of unrest here and there, because there is that resistance. Even our time, waking up in the morning, much as we were day scholars in primary school, was troublesome. You try as much as possible to feign all manner of illnesses so that you don't end up in school. So that's a fact. And I think what is important is we need to look at how this was done, because I don't think it was done properly. We were not properly prepared in terms of managing the kids that have been away from school for a very long time. And then immediately after that, they are faced with an exam that they have to undertake anyway, because we need to manage the timelines for academic year and all that. So this takes more than just taking a cane back to school.
Okay.
This takes more about, it's about management, it's about administration, it's about what do you do with the kids that are ill-prepared. What kind of exams do you put before them, and what kind of pass marks are you looking at? Because it cannot be normal. This is not a normal year or normal 2 years for anybody, including the kids, including the business people, including everyone, even the average employee out there. So they also need to be factored as we look at how to mitigate against the time that has been lost and energy that has been lost doing a lot of other things. Remember, there are quite a number of them that have even fallen victim to all manner of social ills, including, pregnancies, defilement, and all those things. So it's a host of a lot of things that need to be looked at with an open eye, but with a mind to ensuring these kids are not lost in the whole mix. When I hear individuals that should be talking about mending fences, as it were, looking at the situation and resolving it, and then you hear they're just talking about looking at the aspect of punishment for purposes of just punishment. I think that is not the right way to go about it.
Yeah. Madam Elachi, I'll come to you on this. Earlier this month, I believe, I'd spoken to CAS, Zach Kinuthia, on the issue. And he said some tough decisions need to be made right here. These students might have to pay the cost for, what happened right now. It'll be uncomfortable for them in terms of an extended period of learning, shorter breaks, but from there things will get better. But clearly, as you can see right now, things are not getting better.
Well, first of all, we have to agree these kids have been out of school for 9 months. And in that period, it shows very well that, and we are also parents, we will be honest to our teachers, that it reached a point, I think, that they never used to even look at their books, depending with parents, yeah? So we cannot also blame the teachers, and we cannot also blame the children or the parents. What we need to do, all of us, is to agree, first of all, we've left the children into an environment where we set them free. And so very few of them maybe would remember where their books are. For those who live, let's say, in public schools, in slums, really, you can't expect when now they are wondering if they are going to have their first or second or last meal of a day, that they'll really think of the book. I doubt. And so what both sides need to do is to agree what is the minimum grade, because you can't now push them to the grade that was there, that you knew when they're in school and the environment is conducive, these are the grades. So they need to sit down and say, this is the minimum grade we want to see a child who we believe, if put well back to school, will get back to his grades or not. Because there are kids here, you already know what were their grades before COVID came in and now where they are. Those are kids you can move with. There are those ones who are low, who are slow learners also. How do we deal with that? But for me, we need to agree as a whole, all stakeholders. Let us look at the minimum grade first of what is best in when a child has been in this environment and not an environment where he was just playing, an environment you're closed because you are told you move, COVID will get you there. So you're in a closed environment also. Okay. So those are the things they need to look at. Then now we go back and ask ourselves, are we willing to prepare this? Because also you have to look at where we've now bulked all of them. So we have this class and we have a class that is about to come in and has to come in so that you don't find yourself in a crisis when they move some of them to high school and some of them to campus. So we have to again sit and all the key stakeholders say, for us to move this class, this will be the minimum grade. And therefore, now kids are given targets. And kids do know how to get their targets back and told, this is your minimum to go to maybe the national school that you're looking for, and you'll find them getting there.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me bring in Justice on this one very quickly before we get to our main conversation, Justice, because even before NEC released this particular results, there was the issue of school unrest and what some had termed as a knee-jerk reaction from the ministry talking about let's reintroduce caning. This over 10 years had been banned from schools. Is this a way to deal with that aspect of discipline in schools as they get back into the system?
I don't think it would be right to respond to violence with violence, because what we have seen is students behaving violently. And to respond and imagine and conjure up the idea of violence to tame these kids, I do not think it would be the right thing to do. And by the way, globally, the idea of even inflicting pain on human beings, leave alone students in high school, even the criminals, even the murderers. We moved away from the idea that inflicting pain on human beings would yield to better results in terms of discipline in school. So I do not entirely agree that going to school with canes and introduction of cane in school would solve the problem. In fact, on the contrary, again, it may even harden some of these kids who have resorted to violence and banning the schools. I do not believe that the problem we are witnessing is a problem of withdrawal of canes in school. It's a problem of emotional issues that needs to be addressed. It's a problem of fear, the fear of exams, and that needs to be addressed. Maybe we need to introduce more of counseling, maybe more of more close relationship between the parents, the teachers, and the students in school. So Jeff, I do not believe that reintroduction of cane in school would be a magic bullet to solve the problems of evils and banning of schools that we are currently witnessing. I think we need to move away from that. It is against the human rights, and if you can imagine if you were to introduce the caning after doing away for the last 10 years, and again suddenly schools are you'll see teachers and principals moving away with canes in school to inflict pain on kids and high school students. I do not believe we will get the results we desire. I believe, again, it may even worsen the situation. So it's not the right direction to go. I believe the minister may have made the remarks in a hurry, and I believe he needs to call a stakeholders meeting and discuss and come up with a genuine solution that will address the problems bedeviling high schools as currently it is.
Okay. I will wait and see what the direction from the ministry is as far as this is concerned, but clearly it's an issue of concern and a developing story that we are keeping tabs on right here on K84 this morning. Let's switch gears now, talk about the Rocky referendum road. Look at what we're having this morning as we get up. As you can see, front page of the PD, strategy or plain graft. MCAs list demands. That's what they're having right there. As you can see, that story also being carried on your Daily Nation's front page as well. Uhuru changes tack to tame Ruto as far as the BBI is concerned right there. And on the Star, Ruto's wheelbarrow politics will sink youth into abject poverty, says Raila. Charles, let me come to you on this. You've been pretty supportive of the BBI so far. But with what we're seeing, Kenyans, even those who are probably sitting on the fence, are being pushed to one side from what it seems, because when the MCAs say all they need is a car grant, and the core principle of the process says this is as good as done, we'll just talk to the SRC, we'll make sure this is carried out. Surely, Charles, even for those who probably, and many haven't read the document, already there's a resistance thinking that now we'll spend billions of more shillings so that they can get that?
I think we live in a very interesting country, Jeff. Because we have members of the National Assembly, members of the Senate enjoying car grants. And we have county assembly members that are treated like trash, like they don't matter. Yet, you want them to deliver hospitals. You want them to deliver good health care. You want them to deliver agriculture, which is fully devolved. Food security, by the way, one of the 4 agenda issues, is fully devolved. You want them to take your kids to TVET institutions and make them get skills so that they can get jobs. You want them to do ECD so that your kids in nursery school don't go to private institutions and pay a lot of money. They are the ones who approve these things. They are the ones who remove your governor if he's not behaving well. They are the ones who approve all these budgets. They are the ones who approve the development programs that you have in the county. But you want to treat them like trash. And every time an issue is raised, because this issue of car grants did not come yesterday. It's been there on the table for a very long time. But Kenyans, because you elect people, and then you want to believe they are not important. There are people in this country who still believe an MCA is a very small person that cannot do anything. It's only now that they are going to interact with them properly through this process of amending the Constitution through the popular initiative. Mm-hmm. So my take is this. One, the timing is off for what's going on in terms of the car grant and all that, because it sends a wrong message to the average voter out there. But the reality is, it's legitimate expectation on their part that they should be treated the same way as other representatives of the people, because they are representatives of the people at the very grassroots, why it all matters. And remember, Jeff, we have 2 levels of government. We have 48 governments in this country, not one government, not 2 governments, 48 of them. Mm-hmm. One national government, not central government, national government. One national government and 47 county governments. It is, and much as they are interdependent, those governments exist and they have a function, and that function is provided for in the Constitution, and the functions are there, Schedule 4 of the Constitution. So it's not like this is some small little young men and women that you put on the side and treat the way you want to treat. And I'm saying this with a lot of respect. I don't want to vie as an MC. I've never vied. But what we're trying to say is the timing, the connection with BBI, of course, is off because it will send the wrong message. Obviously, those ones that have been saying negative things about BBI will pick on this, and they will say people are being bribed to do this thing. But trust me, even if the car grant was there or was not there, the gains that are going to counties, and not to the specific MCA who is elected today, a representative of the people today realizes that, number one, county assemblies will be independent. For the first time in the history of this country, they will not be dependent on the governor for rollout of their programs as county assemblies, because the funds will come separately. They will have a ward fund. what fund is, the CDF, as we see it, is the one that has sustained many members of parliament. They go out there, much as they are not in the executive, they implement projects through the CDF and they get re-elected or get elected. You know, they have, so MCAs will have an advantage also over and above past MCAs, because now they can have actually literally showcase what they have done in terms of development. There are a lot of benefits that are coming to count, and including the increased amount of resources that has been lying in the national government. So bottom line, we are saying the timing is off, but in as far as getting those loans are concerned, grants are concerned, I think it's okay, because even members of the National Assembly that you castigate left, right, and center, call all manner of names, get 5 million shillings for car grant.
And that's been the prevailing argument right there, Madam Elachi, that because they're having, we should also have. All fair, but we're looking at a scenario where not only Kenya, but the world at large has been hit very hard economically. We've seen the indicators from IMF, from Morgan Stanley, just talking about where we stand in terms of economy and debt. And if you have an executive that's really serious about, you know, cutting down on expenditure, do we still need to dish out car grants, or should we even relook those who are having members of parliament and the Senate and cut that as well? Because right now we are all just trying to survive even economically.
Well, first of all, before we distort the whole process, the MCAs already have the cars. So nobody is going to take the money to buy cars. I think that's where people didn't understand what the president was saying. The president says, you've taken a loan to buy that car already, meaning you're in 3 years now, you've been paying it. The same grant that others are given, but you're given the way the mortgage is given.
Right.
So they've been paying. So the only thing they are going to do, the only thing that is going to happen is to, what SRC is now not going to do, is to stop where the loan has reached, and now you get the car. You continue now having the logbook, because for now, they don't have the logbook. So let us not try and say we are now removing another 2 billion to buy cars. No. No, we'll be misleading Kenyans completely. We are not. As the time they entered, we gave them the cars, but in a mortgage way. What SRC is just going to do is now translate it back into a grant, period. So there are many ways that is going to happen. Now let's move from there. Let's come now to the real issue where we are talking about, and that is why I want Kenyans, and we have to start giving Kenyans truth, yeah? The late Nyacha used to say, speak the truth. The truth of the matter is, if we come into these things of cars and everything, we find ourselves in a debate that is just not fair. Because a minister has like 6 to 7 cars. One minister, depending on your portfolio. The senior most can have even 10. Then others 2. The car says 2 or 3, isn't it? And all of that is grant, yeah? Because, so when you come now to our members of parliament, and it is a debate we've had when I entered Senate. We pushed for them to have. It's only this game we play in the assembly sometimes, in the National Assembly, because they are the ones who can give a money bill. Or they are the ones who distort all these things. And therefore it is wrong. And why do they do that? Because an MCA will be able, and is able, to vie for, I mean, how many are now in parliament? Many of them. Even the ones of Nairobi, all of them used to be MCAs. So you can't run away from that. This is just, I want to be an MCA, that is my jurisdiction that I have picked. You want to be a senator, but anyone can be anywhere in that jurisdiction. But in real terms, in terms of taking care of now Mwananchi, do you know the MCA carries the biggest burden? That in the morning today, if you ask many of them, somebody has woken up, maybe didn't, and I'm talking about the rural ones now, or even Nairobi. You've woken up, gone to the MCA, you wanted to be in hospital, you didn't have a car. That's the only car, his car, who he's paying loan, he has to remain. That's the only car he might use to rush you to hospital, to rush someone, to do anything. When you have a funeral, same. When you have a wedding, same. So Kenyans have to change before we start complaining. Can we also, as citizens, have a responsibility to know that Muheshimiwa is not the person you have to carry, she or he should not carry your whole burden. Okay. Until we do that, we will have to go through this day and night complaining, but at the same time, after we finish complaining, they are the first ones. I mean, like, I'll be honest, for the last 1 week, I know many I've had to try my best, go to friends, and see how they go back to school. Yes, so it's something very interesting that this social welfare must stop. But then now, when we come now to the real issue of how the president has packaged the BBI, there's nothing like goodies. These are things you promised people. The last mile, you've been doing it in other places. You have to finish. So the problem is just that you must do that development, and it does not mean you're dishing out goodies, because that is the development of the people that need to go on the ground.
Okay, well, let's take a short break at that particular point. When I come back after the break, I want to have Justice weigh in on this as well, because it seems like a slippery slope, a dangerous precedent being put in place. Is it previous promises being delivered, or goodies, as are being termed in various dailies, that are being dangled in front of those who are needed to move this particular process forward? You can also get me on Twitter at I am Jeff Mote or K24 TV. We are back after a short break. This is a newspaper review. Don't go too far.